Have you ever chased a goal, got the job, found the relationship, hit the milestone, only to feel empty again a few days later? You're not alone. Most people live on a loop. Set a goal, work hard, reach it, feel satisfied for a moment, and then feel the need to chase something else. It's exhausting. And according to author John Wheeler, it's also based on a mistake. The feeling that something is missing isn't because your life is broken. It's because you've been taught to look for peace and fulfillment in the wrong places. Wheeler's message is direct and simple. What you're looking for, you already are. Let's break that down. The thing you've been searching for, peace, happiness, purpose, isn't out there in a job, a better version of yourself, or even a spiritual breakthrough. It's already here, right now, in your awareness. Not in your thoughts, not in your emotions, but in the quiet presence that's aware of them. That might sound abstract, but it's not. Think of awareness like the screen on your phone. Apps open and close, videos play, messages pop up. But the screen itself doesn't change. Your thoughts and emotions are like those apps. They come and go. But the awareness that notices them, that stays constant. The search for meaning keeps going, because we believe we're missing something. But what if we're not? What if the problem isn't that peace is hard to find, but that it's so simple, we overlook it? Have you ever looked everywhere for your keys, only to find them in your hand? Awareness is like that. It's so close, so familiar, that we don't notice it. Instead, we get caught up in the next plan, the next fix, the next insight. This is where Wheeler flips the usual advice on its head. You don't need a new method, mindset, or mantra. You just need to stop. Notice what's already here. Your awareness is always present. It doesn't require effort. It doesn't leave when you're sad or anxious. It's just there. Awareness itself is enough. Most people believe they're the thinker behind the thoughts or the doer behind every action. But Wheeler asks, have you ever chosen a thought? Or do they just show up? If thoughts appear on their own, who exactly is doing the thinking? This question reveals something critical. The self you're trying to improve might just be a story your mind is telling. And if that self is just a story, then the struggle to fix or complete it is endless and unnecessary. Wheeler's message can be hard to hear at first. It means letting go of the idea that you'll one day finally arrive at a perfect version of yourself or your life. But it also offers a kind of relief. There's nothing you need to do to be whole. You already are. This doesn't mean giving up on goals or ignoring real problems. It means recognizing that you're not missing anything deep down. And from that place, life becomes a lot less stressful. So the next time you find yourself chasing the next big thing, pause. Ask yourself, what if I'm already okay right now? You might notice that underneath all the noise, there's a quiet sense of being that doesn't need fixing. That's awareness. That's you. And that might be all you were ever looking for. So if awareness is always here, and not something to be achieved, why does it feel like we keep missing it? We're trained to look for answers in thoughts, but thoughts are just content. They're like news alerts, constantly updating, often dramatic, and rarely helpful in seeing the bigger picture. When you believe every thought is important or meaningful, you get pulled into stories about who you are and what you lack. That's when the cycle of seeking starts again. One new way to look at this is through how our culture equates value with effort. We're told that everything worth having must be earned. So when someone says peace is already here, the mind rejects it. It sounds lazy or fake, but that reaction is a clue. It shows just how deeply we've tied our sense of worth to struggle. You don't have to stop your thoughts or silence your mind to recognize awareness. That's just another form of striving. Instead, you can notice that thoughts are happening within awareness, like weather passing through the sky. You don't have to control the weather to know the sky is still there. When you're stuck in traffic and frustrated, try this. Don't analyze the frustration or argue with it. Just notice it. Frustration is happening. You're still here. That noticing, without judgment or trying to change it, is awareness showing up. It's that simple. Freedom doesn't mean changing your life. It means seeing it clearly, noticing what's already present, without filtering it through a belief that it should be different. Once you really get that awareness isn't something you create, but something you are, a shift begins. You stop trying to fix what was never broken. You stop chasing what's been with you the entire time. And that changes everything, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in the quiet way that actually lasts. If thoughts and emotions appear in awareness and not from a personal you controlling them, what does that mean for how we live? It means something subtle but powerful. Most of what we call me is just a habit, a mental reflex. We've grown so used to labeling experiences, my anger, my sadness, my failure, that we never stop to ask, who is the me these things belong to? Try it right now. Think of a thought you had recently. I'm not good enough. I hope they like me. I'll never figure this out. Then ask, who exactly had that thought? Can you find the thinker? Or is the thought just there? The mind doesn't prove a self exists. It creates the illusion of one. And the more seriously we take that illusion, the more effort we spend trying to improve or defend something that isn't really there. This isn't just philosophy. It's extremely practical. Take anxiety, for example. Most anxiety isn't about the present moment. It's about a mental story of what might happen. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I can't handle it? But those fears only grip you if you believe they're happening to someone real. Once you see that the self is just a bundle of thoughts, the fear loses its grip. You don't need to get rid of the self-image. You just need to stop treating it like the truth. It's like watching a movie. You don't forget it's fiction just because it feels real for 2 hours. Same with the stories your mind tells. They can appear. You just don't need to live inside them. When you start living from awareness instead of identification, life doesn't become perfect. It becomes lighter. You still make choices, feel emotions, and face challenges. But you stop carrying the extra weight of believing everything means something about you. That's the shift Wheeler points to again and again. From I am this thought to this thought is appearing. From I need to change to awareness has never changed. And when that lands, even for a moment something opens. You stop defending. You stop performing. You stop chasing an identity. You just live. Simply, clearly, freely. So if the self is just a mental habit and awareness is what's always present, what keeps us locked into stress and suffering? We believe our thoughts. Not just listen to them, but trust them, defend them, and build our lives around them. Most suffering isn't from what's happening. It's from the mental comment about what's happening. For example, you get stuck in traffic. That's just a situation. But then your mind adds, this always happens. I'm going to be late. I'm such an idiot for taking this route. That's where the stress comes from. Not the traffic, but the interpretation. Wheeler's message is that these interpretations aren't reality. They're optional. The problem is we rarely pause long enough to see that. We're so used to reacting, fixing, and explaining that we never stop to ask, who is this voice talking to? And more importantly, do I need to listen to it? You don't need to silence your thoughts to find peace. You just need to see that they're not always true, and they're not you. Thoughts can be loud and still irrelevant, like a broken car alarm. Just because it's going off doesn't mean something's wrong. Thoughts are like pop-up ads. They want your attention, your reaction, your engagement. But you don't have to click. You can let them come and go, like background noise you're no longer interested in. The moment you realize you can watch thoughts instead of obey them, you gain space. Space to respond instead of react. Space to feel an emotion without becoming it. Space to live without carrying the entire weight of your identity into every experience. That's not detachment in a cold or indifferent sense. It's clarity. You're no longer living inside a mental fog. You're seeing things as they are, not as the mind describes them. The goal is not to eliminate the mind. It's to stop mistaking it for the truth. When you recognize awareness as your home base, the mind becomes a useful tool, not your master. You think when you need to. You feel fully. But you stop adding the extra layer of struggle. And that's where real freedom begins. Not in fixing thoughts or avoiding feelings, but in no longer being fooled by them. If we're not our thoughts, and not the self the mind keeps talking about, what does that mean for how we live day to day? It means we've been living under a false assumption that we need to control life to be okay. But here's a surprising truth. You're not in control, and you don't need to be. That may sound scary at first. We've been taught that being in control is what keeps us safe. Plan more, manage better, work harder. That's how we've been trained to handle life. But if you pay close attention, you'll see that most things unfold on their own. Your heart beats. Your lungs breathe. Thoughts appear. Emotions rise and fall. You don't control any of that. Life just happens. Who is the you that's supposedly in control? Is it a voice in your head? A feeling in your chest? A mental image? When you really look, you find there's no single place where you are in charge. There's just awareness and life happening within it. What you think of as decisions are often just spontaneous responses. You don't sit around making most of your choices from a control tower. You respond, you adjust, and it works, until the mind steps in and says, I should have done that differently, or I need to figure this out. That's when struggle starts. But here's the shift. You don't need to control everything for life to function. In fact, much of your stress comes from trying to manage what isn't yours to manage, like thoughts, feelings, or outcomes. Think of it like trying to control the ocean. You can't, but you can float. You can surf. You can ride the waves without believing you're responsible for creating or stopping them. This doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you stop carrying the exhausting burden of believing you're supposed to be in charge of everything. You act when needed, but without the tight grip of anxiety. That's where a new kind of confidence comes in. Not the confidence of "I've got this," but the deeper ease of "I don't need to force this." You begin to trust life more, not because everything goes your way, but because you see that awareness, the real you, is untouched by any of it. Freedom doesn't mean having control. It means not needing it. When you realize this, life becomes lighter. There's still effort, but it's clean effort. Focused action without all the mental tension. There's still emotion, but it flows instead of sticking. You no longer need life to go a certain way for you to be okay. And that's the heart of Wheeler's teaching. You were never the one controlling it all. And that's the best news you'll ever hear. So if control is an illusion, and awareness is what's always present, where does suffering actually come from? Suffering doesn't come from events. It comes from resistance. Most people assume pain and suffering are the same. But they're not. Pain is part of life. Suffering is what happens when we argue with it. Something happens. You lose a job, someone leaves, plans fall apart. That's pain. But the mind adds, "This shouldn't have happened. I'm a failure. This ruined everything." That's suffering. Suffering is optional, because resistance is optional. That doesn't mean we become robots. It means we stop fighting what's already here. When something painful shows up and we don't pile a mental story on top of it, we still feel it, but we don't suffer under it. Instead of asking, "How do I stop this from happening?" try asking, "Can I let this be here without making it mean something about me?" Here's a clear example. Imagine you're stuck in fear. Instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this fear?" try this. Can fear be here and still be seen? You're not denying it. You're not suppressing it. You're just not identifying with it. You're noticing it from awareness, not from the false self the fear seems to belong to. Emotions don't need fixing. They need space. They pass faster when they're not labeled, judged, or resisted. That doesn't mean doing nothing. It means not making them personal. Let anger be anger. Let sadness be sadness. Let it all come and go. It already does. This might sound simple, but it's life-changing. What you observe, you don't have to become. That's awareness in action. So why do we keep falling back into suffering, even when we know all this? Because the mind works on autopilot. It's wired to protect the me it thinks you are. And when life doesn't match the mind's story, it panics. This isn't supposed to happen. I can't handle this. But when you see that the self it's trying to protect is just a thought, the urgency drops. The stories lose their power. You don't need to win against suffering. You just need to stop feeding it. And that happens naturally when you no longer identify with the voice that says something's wrong with you or with life. Peace isn't found by changing the moment. It's found by changing your relationship to the moment. And that shift happens when you recognize you are the space that sees the moment, not the person the moment is happening to. When that's clear, life stops being a problem to solve. It becomes something to live, fully, openly, and without needing it to be different. So if awareness is who we really are, and the mind's stories are what keep us stuck, what now? How do we actually live from this understanding? Not just know it, but embody it. You don't live from awareness by trying to. You live from it because you already are it. That's the final and most overlooked insight. Awareness doesn't need practice. It doesn't need rituals or rules. It just needs to be noticed. The hard part is not finding awareness. It's stopping the constant habit of looking somewhere else. We think presence needs to feel special, like clarity should come with fireworks or a deep, dramatic shift. But the truth is, the present moment is often ordinary, and that's exactly why we miss it. Awareness is like silence. It's always there, underneath the noise. The noise just draws more attention, but silence is never gone. It's just covered. The same goes for your true nature. It's not lost. It's just unnoticed. You might ask, okay, but what do I do with all this in everyday life? Here's the final, practical insight. Start small. Notice often. Expect nothing. You don't need to change your life. Just notice awareness in the middle of a conversation, while doing dishes, or when waiting in line. Noticing isn't a special event. It's as simple as asking, what's here right now that's aware of all this? Don't wait for bliss or peace to flood in. Just see that awareness is here, whether things feel calm or chaotic. When you live this way, you'll see something shift, not in your circumstances, but in your relationship to them. You stop needing life to match your preferences in order to feel okay. You stop waiting for some future moment to make you feel whole. And that's it. That's the end of seeking. Not because you gave up, but because you discovered there was never anything missing. So the final truth is this: you don't need to become something. You don't need to find something. You don't need to fix something. You just need to see what's already here and stop ignoring it. That's freedom. And it was never anywhere else but where you are right now.